Hello traders, this is Alex with the COTlive.com website, bringing you another update prior to this next solar eclipse on October 14th. Today at 13 hours and 49 minutes is the quarter moon coming into the solar eclipse, so kind of important to me. I'll probably do another update maybe on the lunar. I probably won't waste your time and do another one unless something really wild happens. Again, this is a learning tool, hopefully to get you to understand how to combine Gann methods with the trend. Again, I use the quarter moons as my time and the square 9 as my price. I also have the heliocentric, geocentric planet alignments as a little guide, and the potential voids. Probably not as significant as the other stuff, but again, I keep it all. Also the angles, how many. So that's kind of the platform. This charts that I use, kind of a point and figure system. Has to have two boxes down, like let's say this one here on Apple, before I trip it short. It's not really a system, but more of a guide, so you can keep yourself in the direction of the longer term trend. Again, it's not a daily chart, not a weekly chart, it's a moon chart. So the one-to-ones you'll see on these charts are one box over, one box down as a trend down, one-to-one. So let's get into it here. Apple, of course, my last update I had, I believe, was this new moon back on September 15th. So, we're 3 other moon periods into it. Today is the last day for this period. But you can see that trend was violated. The one-to-one is still intact. We haven't even touched it. So, we had a gap down also, which is negative. Again, I kind of trade a checkbox method, right? Even airplane pilots, when they're crashing, they go through a checklist, right? I think that's important. Kind of keeps you on the right side, keeps your emotions out of it. And that's why they do it. That's why I do it. You kind of try to avoid being right and just making money. A lot of people just got to be right the market, and well, that doesn't make money a lot of the times. You got to be with the direction of the trend. Again, I like options, so part of that is the longer term view is to keep me on the right side of things. And you can see I also use the Gann stuff, 45 degrees over, which again should be, on this example, should have been a high, and it was. So that tells me that this 90 degrees over could be a potential low. So I'm looking for that to be maybe a finale, potentially, of this corrective move. Of course, you can see we started this deal quite a while ago, and the solar eclipse is down here. We're getting close to it, so again, I believe that's kind of going to be makes sense to be some type of support. If you're a fundamentalist, you're looking for long-term breaks, this is a great avenue. Anyway, you can see that we're coming down. It kind of had a bear trap. This is where the stop would be. Again, I have it posted right here. Trend is down, 13 bars down. So I'm kind of looking for this to, we're in a bear trend at the moment. So you got to assume that's the overriding factor. So anything that comes into the market is going to accelerate that trend. And we know how bears are in the stock market. The stock market tends to have slow drag up moves and very fast, extremely fast declines. That's the nature of the beast. You got a lot of public in there that puts their money in there thinking they're going to make a win, or they're in some type of funds, and they don't ever get out, right? So, if you never get out, then you're going to go through a lot of these pullbacks along the way. I'm not that guy. I'm more of a trader, so I like to, make a lick up here. I'm going to get out, man. I mean, 21 quarter moons up. I'm not going to stay in there forever. So and I'm not going to buy the first dip either. So that's just kind of my nature. There's so many stocks to trade. There's no sense getting yourself pigeonholed into one thing. Caterpillar, you can see that it finally broke trend. Um, kind of broke trend here, gave you the warning signs. It never did make a new high. And now eventually we ended up rolling over. 45 is kind of a maybe high. So that's pointing to the first 3/4 moon after the lunar eclipse. And that makes a little sense. From the low, 190 degrees over was kind of a, again, you could take any of these, so it's a little tricky. But to me, that probably some type of high, and I'm looking for this 180 degrees then to probably be some type of low as well. Again, solar eclipse is down here. Now we're going to have a new solar next moon period, October 14th. So that's why it's kind of important why I'm kind of amping up my recordings here to you, because again, that's important to me. Now, it might not be you, but that's that's the starting point for everything that I do. Bank of America made new lows. If you go back and review the previous video, I was a little concerned about that. 180 degree high, squaring out the range. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So it definitely had the warning signs that that was a chopper high. Now we made new lows and it took out the lows, so it could be a chopper low. If you're just extremely bullish, Bank of America, maybe, again, today's the day, the next zone, right? So, you could definitely buy quantity out of the money calls. Again, this is kind of the swing area that's important to me, right? Makes sense that we need to get above that at least. Now this is the ultimate swing, and this would be confirmation of this bear market swing. Ford, we're coming in, banging on the solar, still hasn't done much. Last video, I definitely thought it could break back to this solar. Again, this is too easy of a low. I'm concerned that we're going to knock that out. Again, if it's a chopper, you got to be a predator in the weeds. Think like a predator. Where's all the stops? Well, they're going to be down here. So, at minimum, right? So, don't get too amped up to buy it just because it has some little bottom. Think more of a predator, especially option traders. If you're an outright stock buyer and you're buying and holding, this is area to buy down in here. Not in the middle, definitely not up here, right? After a 7 moon period bump. ATI also broke back to the solar eclipse. Now I'm doing this at 8:11 in the morning prior to the open Central Time, and currently the S&P futures are down 42. So I'm going to assume a little negativity here on the opening, just so you know. But again, you can see we broke back. We are 3 moon periods down. Stops are here, right? Back to the solar. You can see there's some levels where stops will probably be here. But eventually these are the areas where the max stops are and where the big predators lie. Wayfair, this market, 180 degrees over was the secondary event. So now we start a new one. Since we're past the zone, it happens to be a high, right? 45 should have been a high. That's my rule. That's a Gann rule. 40, if you're looking for a high, then 45 should be a high, 90 should be a low. 45 was a low, so I don't expect new highs anytime soon. And 90 more likely will be some type of sideways high. Again, maybe chopping this out, or depending how far down we go. Now, again, the solar eclipses are way down here, so it's definitely possible we could cascade this market down to a much lower level in Wayfair. And Wayfair, I've never traded it. I've charted it because I know my customers, ag customers. Again, this is basically ag stocks. The ag customers definitely use Wayfair out in the country, so. I added it, and ever since, it's definitely a speculative market. It has good swings, so I kind of like it as a trading stock. Don't know nothing about it, much more than that, and they tag my phone now. Since I talk Wayfair on my phone, I get ads every day now. But IBM, again, a good technical stock. And if you review the previous videos, if we're looking for some type of high in here, 120 degrees over, it came in one period after that. And now we're coming into this one, and it broke trend, broke the swing, definitely a negative atmosphere, and squaring out of the range, comes in from low to high on the lunar eclipse. So that intrigues me a lot. I'm looking for some type of low event probably on that, and it could cascade back down to the solar. I mean, a lot of this stuff, the trend is definitely down, so be careful of just buying the first break that you get. EOG, that's a energy, one of the bigger energy stocks, trading at fairly high pricing. I had a nice bull trap, right? Punctured highs, which I talked about in my last video. Punctured highs, and then immediately had no follow through. Again, I call it lack of acceleration, right? And when you get new highs, you want to see it accelerate. It should go way the heck up, not falter. And it immediately faltered, so that gave you the warning sign to, if you did buy that new high, you might want to exit, or at least definitely have some tighter stops in, or buy puts. It did break back to the solar already, so, and I didn't quite draw this out, but you can see that we are also below the uptrend 1-to-1 line. This is the cardinal cross, cardinal cross area at 116.46, definitely a support area. 90 degrees over from the secondary low, was, missed it by one period. So again, a little negative there on that stock. 45 should have been a low, and it was a high, so I was a little concerned about 90. And now the 120 is your next gauge, which also matches up with the 45 on the lunar eclipse. So we do have a few planets coming in the lunar. The solar has much more, so I'm more anxious about the solar this year. Anyway, PXD, another energy stock, definitely broke trend, below the solar eclipse, 180 degrees over from the low. What was one of the highest closes, so definitely a warning sign to use caution. That was half a year, right? So it had a bump up from the low, and now but again, it was kind of a bull trap. Just didn't have no pump. Every time it popped through, it just kind of drizzled out. I'm a little concerned. The ultimate stops initially will be here, and then of course the big predators will be down here waiting. Now again, you just don't maybe buy it right away unless you're using options, call options, and you want confirmation, right? You want to see an X on the freaking chart. AT&T, a dismal trade, had 16 quarter moons down, and this is all the result. Man, that's pretty ugly. 180 degrees over from the high was definitely a low. So, and again, from this low, 45, I mean, just a dud. I'd stay out probably. CME definitely had some activity. They get commissions, so every time you do a trade on futures or ag stocks are probably tied to the futures, so they get a little chunk of everything. They raise commission rates and they get a big boost in their pricing. So this gap down here is the solar, so definitely support if we have a break back. Right now it looks somewhat constructive, potential top, potential some type of coil for a new leg. So you don't know. We did square out right here, so it'd be interesting to see where that trades here this morning. Now again, we're not quite done, so we got a full day of trade before we actually close this out, and then we start on the solar eclipse zone. NOG, again, squared out the price, 90 degrees over was kind of a high. 45 should have been a low. It was not. So this is a problematic for NOG. I think it's going to go down. I just don't think it's going to survive. Um, you know, just, but we're back to the solar eclipse. But again, the energy is definitely here, where all the predators will be. So we got both solar eclipses on PPC right in here. It broke back to it, right? That's kind of logical. 45 was a high, so that's a concern. 90 was a low, so that makes sense. Now it's up to the market to figure out where it's going to go. And actually, you can probably add, let me add this, see where we're at. 45 was a low, should have been a high. So again, I'm a little concerned that this 90 zone, which is close to 120, it's, you know, just after the lunar eclipse. So I'm kind of thinking of, again, since everything is heavily lower, I'm kind of thinking we're going to punch out the lows more than likely. So patience there if you were just a buyer only. Elan, ag chemical, had a nice trend, quarter moon. You know, we had 11 up. Hang on. We had 11 up, and then the 12th one broke, and then we went up a little bit, kind of in a triangular cone shape, and then we kind of broke that, and then broke the one-to-one, and then we collapsed into the solar. So that all makes sense. 45 was not a low, and 90 was a high. So definitely this 120 could be a low. So this is a, you know, I don't know anything about these companies too much fundamentally, but you know, definitely a break that interests me a little bit. Again, we'll see how it closes out here today. ICL, Israel Chemical Ag Fertilizer Company. Again, lackluster rally. You know, had 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 moon periods down off the high, you know, excluding these little pops. 120 was that high, 180 was this low, just a dud. 45 was a high, 90 was nothing. So the 120, which comes up on the solar, makes sense. So I'd be watching these. Again, since we popped out the solar by a few clicks and didn't have nothing, I'm assuming then that we can pop out the lows. And if there's nothing, no new sellers down there, that might be a buy. TTC, Toro, right? They do a lot of hand tools and different things for the farmers and homeowners. So it's a big market, but man, it had some ugly ass gap. I'm not a fundamentalist, so I don't know why. Might have been a report. Maybe China sued him. Who knows, right? So, you know, this one-to-one coming down, again, trying to find something, right? Maybe, again, I like to assume that it could go up in here to pop the stops on the guys who maybe are bearish but not real. But that's an area to be a seller on, or just stay the hell out of that market with that huge weird gap. Bunge, BG, that's, again, they do a lot of ethanol stuff for the ethanol plants. Had a pretty good run until, you know, we got up here. It was 90 over. Was the kind of the area of the high, missed it by a quarter moon period. So, and it just hasn't done much since, right? So that tells me that it's likely a high. 45 is kind of a potential. So I'm looking for 90 over to be a low. Potential low, right, just after the lunar eclipse. Now, again, the lunar eclipse is important, so anything close to that gets sucked into that zone, depending on the activity, of course. FMC Corp, an ag chemical company, just an ugly sow. That thing is just the true definition of a bear market. Now you get back in here, you get little pops and little wiggles, and you try to bounce, but then you get past that, and then it turns ugly. You don't get anything, right? No pops. Everything stays short. You don't even challenge the previous moon period's highs. Definitely a flush. I mean, you're talking from 135 down to 65 or 63, so definitely an ugly pig. And again, if it does make a low, it's going to probably, again, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. We kind of had a longer term top, and then even to the secondary high, Newton's law, that's 11 moon periods. So even if this is a low, I mean, the possibility that it goes 11 sideways makes a lot of sense to me. So you're talking at the middle of December before you even think about buying that. Now, if it had a V top, then I would expect a V bottom, right? For every reaction, there's an opposite but equal reaction. But it was not that case. So stay away if you're a buyer. Seller, stay away because it's already lost all its steam. Don't get caught in the trap, being the last one in. CNHI, Ag Equipment Company. Again, 45 over kind of was a high, so I'm expecting this 90 to be a low. So a couple more moon periods. That's going to be the quarter moon between the solar and the lunar. So I kind of like that. The high was also made on the quarter moon, so I kind of like that. It's kind of in a rhythmic cycle. 180 degrees was a high, so from the high, 45 should have been a high, and it was a low. 90 was a low, 120 was a low, 180 was a high, so that kind of makes sense. This one, though, makes a little sense that, we took, it took it down below there, so the big boys powered through all that. CF Industries and Ag Fertilizer Company did break trend this week. First time in a few weeks, so we'll see how that turns out. Again, as a market, you're looking at a secondary event. I don't have the numbers at the bottom. So Moss, again, Mosaic Ag Fertilizer Company, always hearing on the news, on CNBC and whatnot. They talk about it once in a while. So it's a player, definitely a trader. He rallied back to these old lows and just couldn't get going. Once it broke trend, it tried to rally and failed, tried to rally and fail. So this looks like a longer term top. I like that action as a longer term top. Not a secondary event, but an overall high. The failure to, it goes up and then fails, goes up and then fails. Big outside event, actually. So that's a concern to me. I think that's a long-term ugliness. And I don't know where that's going to go for sure, but you watch these lows. So June 4th, you can do the math, since I don't have the numbers down below, but watch the force of every month, right? Or every full moon. So again, the full moon is coming up on the lunar eclipse. SQM, nice bear market, pretty easy trade. Went back to the solar, popped it once and failed, and then ever since then that was it. Lights out. Below the 1-to-1. Then it broke below the 1-to-1 coming up. Definitely a bear market with some type of finale in process. TSM, Tyson Ag Produce. Again, Tyson's a kind of a corrupt company, but they are important to our food. So again, had an ugly gap down. Again, you know how I like to. This is the area that I would have been thinking that the predators would sell it, and they did. Now it got up a little higher, but man, on some wild freaking ass trade, hit the 1-to-1, so that made sense. Hit the 1-to-1 here. So now we are down near the lows. I cannot imagine them not taking these lows out. The longer they do not take those lows out, the more negative it'll become. So if you're a bull, you definitely be patient there, wait for them to blow them out. And I don't know if you buy the first blowage or not. You can see we had a kind of an ABC kind of a rally here on NTR, again another ag fertilizer company. Had a pretty good lengthy decline, kind of an ABC pop, Failed here. Big event down. Here's your secondary event. This is your major swing for the 1, 2, 3 kind of traders. That's definitely the swing. So today's close is crucial. I think we're going to, you know, it had a decent decline. So 180 degrees over was this area right in here. So again, let me, since I have the thing I can copy paste, let me see where we're at. Sorry I didn't have this done before. Yeah, this is 120 degrees. 45 was not a low. 90 then was a low. 120 is going to be, looks like some type of low for sure. So since today's the end of it, it just looks like to me that it's just going to be one of those draggers that go on and eventually roll out and probably go down in the 40s or something. ZTS, it's a pharmaceutical company, kind of does some ag chemical stuff for livestock. Definitely a high did occur. Again, no energy here, popping out these highs. It dicked around, kind of created a triangle in here, and then just gave up the ghost. We're below the solar, which is a little negative, but we are above the 1-to-1. So from the low, which must have been pretty ugly. Let me go back. Yeah, one of those weird smashing out of nowhere deals. So we know that can occur, right? So you got to be a little careful that occur again. The past is definitely the representation of the future, so be careful there. FDP, Del Monte, Ag, Undud, pure and simple, 90 degrees over. 45 should have been a high, it was not. So this thing's going to be a dragger. Again, I assume new lows is there as well. CTVA, Cortiva, same situation. I expect new lows. ADM, we're down. This is kind of a swing area. If you want to be a buyer ADM, I would wait. Either wait for some blast from the past to maybe pick up a few calls. And again, if you buy any calls in any of these, I think November 5th. I mean, you don't need to go out and buy a year's worth of time. I think all you got to go out is to November 5th. I don't know how many weeks that is. Maybe let's say do a monthly one that goes out a month, right? That'll cover that. I don't think you need to spend a whole lot of money, because if this is a low, you'll be better off buying some more, right? Spending some of your more money picking the bottom with calls. And again, I'm not just talking this one, ADM. I'm talking all these markets, right? TWI, Ag Machine. Again, we're coming into the solar. Kind of once again, a dud, right? I mean, I don't know where this S&P and the Dow have been, but man, these ag stocks have definitely shown the pattern that it wasn't going to go up. Alamo, not the rental car company, they're an ag manufacturer, kind of been down under the solar, just banging around. We start getting heavy, definitely going to go down probably to a lot lower area, probably to this previous solar eclipse down here at 152 area. Agco, again, another manufacturing. You can see that it's an ugly stick as well. It had its moment, and then once it broke trend, it didn't even think back. Now this did have a pop back to where it broke out of, so that's pretty common. And back to the solar and beyond, so it's under everything. I assume, again, new lows there pretty quickly. John Deere, tough trading market. It's one of your biggest ones price-wise, so stuff isn't cheap. A lot of your big firms trade that on all their funds, so below the two solars, 120 degrees over is this low that we're on current, which ends today. So potential secondary event, I guess. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of John Deere for some reason. They're just a tough trader. Let me plot this in real quick, see where we're at. 45 kind of was a high, so 90 could be a low. That's you know, this quarter moon, 3/4 moon in between the lunar and the solar, so I like that. So that definitely keeps me out for a couple moon periods to see what it does as a buyer. Sand Ridge kind of below both solar eclipses. Both previous ones were right in here, so makes sense that this one could be in this zone as well. So I assume a sideways chopper. We'll find out next moon period. MRO, back to the two solars, same situation. Just this peanut rally is a concern. 180 degrees over. Makes me assume that we're going to take out lows. OXI, same situation, had a bull trap there, right? Popped it out and just failed to rally. So now we're below the solar. I'm assuming, you know, probably this 155 or 55 to 54 area is probably going to be support. And again, being the predator in the weeds. Now the last one here is CVX, a triple bottom, which is definitely high pressure. I think rallied back to the solar, popped it out a little bit, but did not make new highs. 180 degrees is in between the two solars. I could see this market popping both these areas out, right? There'll be some energy there, but long-term energy here. I think everybody knows that. So all the buyers that have been accumulated, I think will get washed out more than likely. Let's go real quick. Oops, I don't want to go to the futures. Stock summary. So this is the summary page. You know, the long-term trends that are above the both solar eclipses will get a +3, right? So again, it's the max of +3, -3. Kind of gives me an area. Now again, if you're buying dips on a long-term trend, you want to buy these, right? The ones that are not with the trend, but opposite of the trend. So, you know, you buy, you know, again, since the current trend is down, but you're still up long-term, and you can kind of see where those are, that kind of thing. This one's up, so you didn't do that one. Probably this one, -3. That one's down, 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 up. Again, that's just looking at the longer term. Of course, you can do the short term as well. So there's a few that you could definitely be aggressive on because you're buying against the long-term trend. So, you know, that's how I would do it. Now the problem is we have 6 markets up currently and 30 down. Now I went back and looked. Again, I don't keep track of this, so I had to go back to the video and look it up. The last video we were 13 up, 23 down, and we were at -4 as a total. Now we're at a -28. Now the time before which was July, I believe 11th is when I put the video out. Probably near the high, we were at 24 plus up and -12 down. So you can see that we're definitely in some type of catechism. But again, the ag stocks were definitely pointing the way down. Let's look at the, this is the S&P, the E-mini S&P actually. And you can see that, you know, back in July, you know, we were rolling over on the ag stocks. And, you know, it was end of August when the stock market finally made its high, 32%, right? That's, you know, third from the low. So kind of a Gann thing. Again, if this is a high, and of course there's your primary high, this is your pivot, right? This is your main pivot. That tells me that if we break this pivot by chance, you know, if we break that pivot, that's not good. That's a long-term high, a long-term pivot. Now again, I don't know any of that's going to happen, right? I'm not a future teller, but That's a bad sign. You know, not saying we're going to go straight down into it, but you know, this one took a while. Let's just run this one over. That's exact same distance off the secondary high. That projects a 33.01 by May, end of May, 1st of May. So again, makes sense, right? Again, I'm not trying to forecast anything. I'm just saying you got to be a little careful, right? I mean, that's definitely a secondary event. It's confirmed since we broke trend. So be a little cautious on your purchases. Your equities, your bloodline, and very important to your staying in business of trading. All right, this is Alex signing off. I hope that helped. We'll probably get back to you here after the solar. Have a wonderful trading week.